Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video I'm bringing to you a book chat that I had with one of my friends here on BookTube, Andrew from Andrew Annotates, and in this video we are discussing our thoughts on Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This discussion has both a spoiler free as well as a spoiler filled section. The small chunk in the beginning will be spoiler free, after which we'll be getting into spoilers. So without any further ado, let's get into the video right away. Say something about yourself so that people who might not know you on my channel, I'll just put you on the full screen.
Okay, I'm Andrew from Andrew Annotates. I read mostly like fantasy books, a little bit of mystery, romance, stuff like that. Feel like make videos about whatever I feel like making, pretty much.
And we both met because of the Shadowhunter Chronicles, obviously. I think it was 2 years back, right?
Yeah, I think so.
We started chatting on Instagram based on some posts that you did or I did. I don't remember properly. And ever since, we've been Bookstagram and BookTube friends. And also from the book club from last year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And one of the main reasons why I decided to read Yellowface was because of the fact that you got the book and it was available at a sale here for me. And I thought, why not? You are also raving about the Poppy War trilogy. So I just wanted to get a taste of it, and I'm so glad I did it because I enjoyed it thoroughly.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first, because I'm new to the author, so I want to know what you feel about her writing, because it's a completely different genre, right, from what we're used to from the Poppy War.
Yes, like a 4, also like probably a 4.25 as well. I loved it. I loved the book. I thought it was so... She has a very engaging writing style. The plot was good. The characters were good. It was a very... intellectually stimulating book, I feel like, because it's very like it's really bookish, and I feel like it talks a lot about like, you know, Twitter discourse and stuff, which it was just an interesting perspective, because I feel like you kind of a little bit got a back end on like publishing stuff. And R.F. Kuang in the Poppy War trilogy also, I feel like what she is interested in doing is trying to find a character who you really is not a good person, but they're an interesting person to follow. I think she's, from what I've read of her, that seems to be like her MO, I guess.
Okay, I'll go now.
Okay.
Actually, the thing which interested me the most was her writing, because I've seen so many people talking such great things about her writing more than anything. And for some reason, I don't know why, ever since the year started, I've been gravitating towards books which are written well more than anything. That is, if they have a good prose, I just keep on reading them even if they are not good. It's been like that for me so far. And when I started this one, I was kind of, a bit awestruck, because since she has written fantasy before, I thought that it would be a more script and flowery, because I used to the kind of writing in fantasy, and here it was like super fun to read. It felt contemporary rather than anything, and just like so modern compared to what I expected from a fantasy author. So it was so much fun for me to read more than anything. And we don't even have that many characters, right? And we got the story from the first person point of view. And I personally like first person's point of view more than anything, because I like to dive into the head of the main character and just know what all is going there. If she had been like a good person or a bad person totally, I don't think it would have been this much interesting. But since she was doing a bad thing, but she has her own justifications of it, which if we see from her end sound so clear, even though they are like objectively wrong. It was so interesting for me, because it didn't feel like the character was totally bad that she was doing all these things. She had done her work, but it's not actually her work. It felt a bit relatable at the same time. When we reflect on ourselves, sometimes we get angry for some decisions that we made in the past, right? It felt like that to me. It was kind of cathartic in that way.
What else I loved about this is that I feel like she's coming for every single person's throat. Like, she's coming for the publishers, the authors, the Twitter book reviewer people. Like, she is trying. I feel like she was trying to make the point of this book that like every single person is a hypocrite.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of how I felt.
Totally. Just a bit more in the spoiler-free section, so that people who are interested in the book can be even compelled to read it from our end. What I thought was, she took the author whose work was stolen and she showed her like kind of the perfect person in the first few pages of the book. And it was like, how could someone even steal the work of a person who's like this? It felt like that to me in the beginning few pages of the book. Every author does that, right? They take instances from other people's lives and they make them up into stories. It's not like the people who read it will know that this is the actual life story of a person, and it might be completely private to them. And making that into a huge reason why our main character wants to do certain things and justify certain stuff was really nice for me. I think, more than anything, it felt like a totally great book. We cannot consider that it is an excellent book. At the same time, it is not a very bad book either. I was completely in a dilemma. Why am I enjoying this while this having so many bad things happening back to back? And I was not able to put it down at all. I was not able to believe that it's like a 300-page book, and I was reading it after work for 2 days, and I was not able to put it down. I was tired, but I wanted to know what's going to happen next. It was that compulsive for me, and it was addictive more than anything. I think I read like 2 chapters or so the first day I read it, and the next day I wanted to finish it. I didn't care whether I worked the next day or whether I slept that night. I just wanted to know what's going to happen towards the end. And it's been quite a while since I read any book that compelled me to hold it in my hands for the whole time and keep on reading it. And if other books are like this, I'm sure I'm going to binge them by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think she has
Are other books like this?
Yeah, I think the Poppy War, definitely the first book. I think that the second and third books have, like, I think her writing is, I don't know. I loved all 3 books. I don't know for sure. I feel, because the first book of the Poppy War, I literally read that, like, I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning before work, and I was reading, like, and I normally am an audiobook person, but I read the whole physically, which is like crazy because it was just so gripping. Because I mean, you're following the main character. Again, the main character is somebody I feel like is just not someone that you're going to think is a good person, but also like she kind of, I think she did it in Yellowface too. Like she makes you kind of empathize with her, even though she's kind of terrible. But yeah. I think the reason that you empathize with June is because you don't really empathize with her. You just think like, okay, she's not great, but neither is anybody else.
Yeah, she just felt like another person who's out there trying her best. And when she saw an opportunity, she just wanted to grab it instead of just letting it go because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and you know what else I love about it is that I feel like there's certain like things set up at the beginning of the book that I feel like when she takes the manuscript, right? There's like, is she going to get caught? Is the other shoe going to drop or something? And Miss Kuang is like, oh yeah, we're going to let the other shoe drop. The gun is going to go off. You know, have you heard of that metaphor of Chekhov's gun?
No,
I've
not.
It's like they say when you're writing a story or something, like if you have a play and if in the play there's a gun in the background, the gun needs to go off. The gun needs to be shot at some point in the play in order to, it's like a metaphor for like, if you're going to put something on the stage, you better shoot the gun. So, and
I want to know what you didn't like about it, because there are like a few things which I felt like were is this actually relevant, and do stuff like this actually happen, and are these the only things that impact the sales of a book? There are some things which I felt so. Did you feel anything like that in a spoiler-free way?
I kind of feel like the ending was like, I would have maybe, I don't know, because it's like I'm talking about like the very, very end. I don't know. Like I thought the book was very compulsively readable, but the ending was kind of like, I wish it had been more. There had been something along the lines of like to kind of emphasize her earlier points in the book about how everyone is terrible. I feel like she kind of shows that throughout the book, but there wasn't any sort of like, I don't know, summary, I guess, get into it. And I wasn't a huge fan of like the whole thing with, I don't know if we can consider that spoilers because it's like right at the end, but.
Okay, I thought that she delved so much into the book internet sort of, side of publishing and left off the actual publishing world, because it felt like the book concentrated more on the Twitter drama and all the things that happen online with the readers, and she like left off most of the stuff that happened offline, because even though the online stuff promotes the book to a different level, there are still people who don't follow books on the internet and just go on and buy a book just because they heard something good about it. For example, like in libraries and people who might not be in the internet in a normal way itself. And it felt like that was not addressed here. For any book to become such a huge seller or a huge thing in the market nowadays, I think it should go hand in hand on both sides, right? At the same time, she had written a literary fiction or a historical fiction, and it's not even fictitious, it is heavily historical. A book like that going so huge, it did not feel realistic for me. That's just not how books work out, right? If they have to stand for a longer time, and if the author has to make more money, they can't just depend on the internet, because it'll stay for like a year or two, and then we'll move on to the different books, other books, whether it's by the same author or someone else. If it's not on the internet, if it's offline, that was something which kept on nagging me until I finished reading the book. And I saw some reviews also of some other people, and I saw the same complaint or the same issue that they also faced. Other than that, I'll not say anything that is a con about this book. Her writing, it's brilliant. Actually, after finishing the book, I thought that this would be written by a person who's like old in their 30s or early 40s. And when I got to know that she's just 27, I was like, a 27-year-old wrote this. That was like mind-blowing for me. And the Poppy has already got so much praise, and she has written that 5 to 6 years back, basically when she was in college. So it was totally unbelievable for me.
A lot of people also, I feel like they've said that, you know, the Athena character is just R.F. Kuang. Like it's like it's a self-insert character. And people compare The Last Front, you know, the book that is taken, it's about historical Chinese, like military history stuff. And I mean, that aspect of it, like I could see how it would seem like like she's clearly taking inspiration from her own life. It's very it's very inspiration. It's not, I don't know. I mean, yes, like obviously that book is like a 1-for-1 Poppy War comparison, but as far as like the events happening in the story, also she constantly describes like Athena Liu as being like beautiful and successful because she's pretty, and I'm like, does Armstrong think that she's
yeah. Yeah, I thought the same thing, and it was like, okay, she's trying to do something with this character. Otherwise, there's no need to stack up so many enviously good things about them while you're obviously trying to make them the good person. It felt like that to me, and when she brought in the twist from the past, it felt okay. You were building her just to break her, getting this point so that we could see the story from June's point of view and see why she thinks the things that she thinks. I think this is enough to compel people to go forward and just pick up the book, and I'm sure that I'm going to read all of our other books also after reading this one. And for anyone who has not read the book, please go forward and quit the video, go read the book. It's so much fun, and then come back and watch this. I think to the spoiler-filled section. I want to start with the plot. I know that you're a plot-driven reader, and you like plot more in books compared to the characters. So I want to start with the plot, and then we'll move on to the other sections which I've planned. I have like 2 or 3 more, so we'll start with the plot first, since it's like the juiciest part of the book.
You know, I said that I was plot-driven reader. I don't know if I really am, as far as the plot is concerned. I mean, I think it was like I was saying earlier. Like I feel like it's very. I don't remember how far in the book it is, right? But like you're really in June's head, and you're constantly thinking like, is she gonna get caught? Is she gonna get caught? And then when she doesn't get caught from the first book, and then she publishes like that second book, and then I can't remember, wasn't it Adele something, the reviewer lady? It goes all over the place about how they're like, oh yeah, it was this first sentence is stolen from. Interesting how every single time, like at the first like 50 to 75% of the book, like she's going to gaslight everyone. She's going to be like, no, like I didn't steal this. I don't know what you're talking about. Like I worked so hard to put this in here. Like,
yeah. And to the level which she maintained the character to keep up her face without being exposed. I thought that the book was going to end without her being exposed. And when she just broke at the end, I thought like, why was there this much build up? Because if she had escaped away with it, I think this could have been totally, frustrating for more people and even more realistic, because something like this can easily happen, because it's not like there's any proof that Athena wrote it except for her boyfriend, and he also doesn't know that whether she completed the draft or not, and only June knows, because Athena, just like June, she doesn't have anyone that's very close in her life that she shares stuff with. I think that holding all those things together and maintaining the lie until the point when she's exposed with the second book, I think that was cleverly stretched out by Kuang so that the full impact of what she did could be experienced by her when the second book came out. How she included all these like very normal things that we all notice but can't do anything about, and bringing them as small elements of the book which can make a lot of sense to readers was nice to see. She also had many side characters, and it felt like any one of these people could turn against June, even though they have all helped her bring the book out, starting from Athena's mother and her agent, her editor, and the Candace girl who finally exposes her towards the end. There were like many characters who were there who could expose her, but I was continuously thinking, this is going to go down in a bad way, but I just want to see who's going to bring her down more than anything. And Candace was like in the back of my head continuously, because we see this character getting fired, and this might be a huge reason why she wants to take revenge against her. And at that point, when we see Candace in the climax of the book, I had completely forgotten about her, because she was not at all there in between. But what she experienced is kind of the most horrible thing that happened compared to any of the other people who were involved in the story.
Yeah, what I kind of wish the ending had been is that she had like I feel like the book was already insane. It was already like the girl June is 100% convinced that she did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And I wish that she kind of like, and this is marketed as a thriller, I feel like. And I feel like if it really wanted to go there and be a thriller and really set the tone of like your main character is insane. Like I wish she had like killed Candace. Yeah. That would have just like really like driven home the message that like but I think maybe she didn't.
It could have been kind of like Gone Girl, where she does everything, but towards the end she does escape, and it's all about her and no one else towards the end.
I think maybe the reason she didn't do it is because she's trying to keep the character in this, like she wants to keep her nuance, because if she becomes a murderer, then it's like, okay, she's clearly the villain. But if she didn't do that, it's like, was June really that bad? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm trying to think plot wise, like anything else. I don't know. I feel like it was a pretty simple plot.
Yeah.
but it's all
Actually,
that's all.
how to say, the core of the plot was very small, and as the time passed, it just kept on rolling and snowballing that it became so huge towards the climax. And I liked that very much because she didn't have to try and set certain things at certain time points inside the plot so that all of these result to something towards the end. It was just like random events were happening now and then, just like it happens everywhere. And when someone made the connection, everything just made sense together for everyone, and it just hit out of nowhere. So that good because I don't think she could have she needed have written anything in a certain chronological order so that towards the end we need someone can make that happen in some other order also. I think towards the end the impact could have been the same. What I mean, that is, I don't think how does one event caused the domino effect for the other. Everything just was happening separately.
Right.
Like how to say, it was happening like short stories, out of nowhere and out of context, unrelated to everything. But towards the end, when everything is together, it just makes the climax make more sense. And how to say, it compels her more in order to just accept that she lied and accept that she did some kind of fraud work. And she just kept that going on.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk about this one more than anything. I want to talk about June.
Oh yeah.
Because I think she was the most fun part more than anything. Because half the time when something was coming out of her mouth, I was like, "This woman is crazy. What's she even trying to do?" I was like that half the time, and I was like, I just wanted to keep the book aside. I had to breathe a little and then go back and read because I can't even a person could go to such an extent to maintain just an image. It's clear that she's caught and she knows that to go down towards the end, but she just wants to stretch it as far as she can and then see whatever comes.
Did you like June at any point?
I'd say, like, as a character, I can say that, how to say, when we got her backstory with Athena in her college, I think that's the point where anyone can, how to say, go to the extent of liking June because it makes sense why she feels that it is right that Athena's work and made it her own because that's the same thing that Athena did too. She took her story because that's something that she shared in private with her. And how to say, without discussing it with June, she doesn't have the authority to write her story and tell her story to the world, right? Even though it is in her own words, I don't think anyone has the authority to do that. And if we had like a small thing which showed us like they had a moment where it is understood, and I think I'm bringing that as a story, which makes her how to say, which puts a spotlight on her at that young age itself, with the consent of June. I think then June could have been even worse. But showing that small aspect of her story, where how to say, it's not even like a strong point. She just searches her memory and she wants something to prove that she is not in the wrong here and what she did is right. In order to just prove that, she picks a memory from the past and she tries to use that as a proof to make herself feel better and try to prove others, or not even others, as the reader, that what she's doing is not completely wrong. It's not like she did is what she did is right, but it makes it a bit less wrong, if you ask me. I think that was the point. I
Yeah.
think that was the point during which I felt like the most empathy to June because if I was in that position, I would also think that she did that to me. So I don't think this is a huge deal. So I think it's fine because she's not even there anymore.
There was also a point in the book at some point when they're talking about how Athena was interviewing like war veterans about their experience, and then I think you're in June's head and she's saying like that she witnessed the interview. I don't remember if it was June that thought this or if it was another character, but someone was talking about how they were like Athena would interview people and it was like she would just write it out exactly as they said it, and like so it was giving you this idea of like, oh, Athena has stolen the story from the past. And then even if you think about like there was a sentence in the book that was like there's no copyright on history, so like anybody can write about people's history,
anything they want.
So it's like I think our Kuang's trying to make a comparison of like she's trying to compare June stealing this manuscript to that, I guess, but I don't really know if that's the same thing. But I mean she's a very compelling main character because just I don't know. I think there maybe was a point in the book when I was like, what I really also would have liked to, or I'm just so curious, like I want to know if Athena had been faking her death, because there was like almost a hint at one point that Athena was faking the death. That would have been, I would have been shocked if that really had been her. Somehow explain. I would have loved to like see Athena explain why she did it and like hear her opinions of June publishing her work, because June is over here in the mindset of like, I have to do this, like I have to honor my friend's memory. But like, would Athena agree with her or not?
Yeah, right. And there's no way to know that though, except for that happening towards the climax.
Yeah, and I was like, she's written fantasy before, so maybe this is gonna have some sort of like paranormal twist or something. And then when it didn't, I don't know. There's so many ways the ending could have gone. Like I feel, but I don't know what my preferred ending would be. But yeah, I mean, June is just a very, you know, I can definitely say when she was talking about her publishing team, talking to her publishing team about the book, and then Candace was the one who was like, we should get a sensitivity reader. And she was like, we don't need that. I do research. I know everything. Well, I was like, all right, June, like maybe take a step back.
And there are also a couple of scenes where she just shows us clearly that June is in for this until the end. She goes to this kind of home where elderly people are, and there's this old man who used to be there in Canada, and she speaks to him and gets her autograph in the book. And even at that point, she breaks, but she doesn't break in front of people. She knows that what she's doing is completely wrong and completely insensitive. And even with that, she doesn't give up what she's been maintaining for so long. She breaks down, but she goes alone. She runs away from that place like a maniac, and then she breaks down. And it was like, okay, she has thought this character throughout. It's not like she went with the flow and added things to her. She was clear that this character is going to be like this. She's going to be a bad person, no matter what others might think of her. And she has to hold on to that, self-thought that she's a good person, and she's doing all the things that she can in order to keep her righteousness together, with various things like that. One was that, and the next one was when she's in a panel, and another woman, she just tells her that, she tells her to her face that obviously she cheated on the first book by stealing Athena's work.
Oh yeah.
All those scenes, they just brought the character together, because she felt like even more a real person than just someone who has been written and fabricated. Because I can imagine someone trying so hard when they have reached that kind of success and not wanting to give it up. Because it's not like she got there so easily. Also, she has been through a lot with her first book, which got published and did not go so well. And we all know writing is definitely a very difficult career, and she's not going to make that much too from that. Even with that, she wants to pursue it. And when she got her mark, when she got her spotlight, she doesn't want to leave that. And that was something which I could understand. Even though it's not right, it's not okay, it doesn't make whatever she did okay. It is understandable, because it's not something that we can put ourselves in the shoes of and think. Because if you ask me what I'll do if I was in the place of June, I can't answer. Only if we are there, I think we'll be able to, think in certain ways. Basically, I don't think that's a proper way to handle it without getting hurt after the mistake is made in the beginning. So I think, all these various events that she concocted and, showed in different parts and times after the publication of the book was really nice. And when the plagiarism was exposed and that became like a huge thing on Twitter, she lost all the awards that she was nominated for. All the repercussions of it were also properly shown to us. It's not like all this happened and it was completely ineffectual and it had no effect on whatever happened to her. It showed that all these things happened, and because of that, she also lost some stuff. It's not like she just was tense for a while and she was in the fear that she will be caught, and nothing else happened and she was just doing well. It was not like that, and I like that aspect. And I also think how she had her conversations with her publisher, it was like so ambiguous all the time. She did not give a straightforward answer anytime. When they asked that, did you plagiarize? It's not like she didn't say, I did not plagiarize, I wrote the book. That was the thing she kept on saying. I wrote the book. It's not that she didn't steal it, but she wrote it. If we see from her point, she wrote the book. That's true. But she didn't create it. And she was taking that stance from the start until the end, even after she was completely exposed. That is, when the small chunk from the second book was released, and it was very clear to everyone that she had stole the work. And even when they have a meeting and she's asked multiple times, she just takes that stance that I wrote the book. It's not that she stole it, she wrote it.
She wrote.
That's her truth the whole time. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
also was interesting to see that even though she was such a huge name in publishing right now, right then, when all these things were happening, her family had no idea of what was happening in her life.
Right.
That was nice.
That's the thing too, is that the publishers kept saying things like, "Oh, the Twitter discourse is like, just ignore it, just don't respond to it, just ignore it, it'll go away. Don't respond to trolls. Like, the internet is not all of the people who are buying books." So I don't know. What did you think about when I think it was like one of her first panels, or maybe the second panel, she was at some event and that girl said, like, "Why do you think you're the person to write this story?" And then June says, you know, like, "I don't think we should control who can
restrict
write
people too." Yeah. I think that made sense. She was using that as a weapon, obviously, in order to defend her. But that didn't make sense because it's not like people who have been through stuff can only address them. We can also try to be an ally and try to understand what they're going through and try to support them when we have the equipments that we can use to, help them in some way. So that will good because there are so many authors out there who have not been through certain, traumatic experiences, but they do include them in their stories. And through that, they reach out to people and make those stories relatable to people who have experienced them at the same time not, so that someone who's not experienced it can see how it can be to a person who has gone through such a thing, and how they can help them in some way. So I think that small chunk was nice because any author would say the same answer, right? Because it's not like anyone who writes about something has been through that completely. Even when it comes to Athena, she's not been through any of that stuff. She's just done her research and she has fabricated everything based on her own experience and her own understanding of what she read and what she got to know. It's not like she went through the war. It's not it's not possible also, right? Because if you want to write something about the past, it's not like that those people exist now. So we just have to uh, appreciate when authors are trying to understand certain stuff which they have not been through, and try to make other people who have not been through those things understand that stuff. At the same time, make it relatable enough so that people who have experienced them, can feel understood while they are reading it. So I think that was a nice thing there. Because any author at that point, not just June, I think anyone who's even proper with their work would have answered with the same thing, right?
Right, like the answer is good, but knowing that she stole the manuscript,
knowing whom it comes from, that felt like, okay, you're one to speak.
It's just, I mean, I just keep thinking of the word like nuance. Like, she's just such a character that you're just like, she's very complicated because she's obviously terrible person, but some of her
I don't think she has so many layers. She has like, very few things which we can clearly see as things that are distinct. But within the few things that she has, I think she has so many intricacies, which just makes her more interesting. It's not like she's a bad person, but she has all these good qualities. She is a bad person. But within that badness, we have all these things which are just spread out there that any one of us can relate to very easily. And if we are there in that position, we'd also think in the same way. And I also liked how she said during instance, it was like a monologue that was going on in her head when she was saying that. That felt it felt satire at the same time, a bit depressing to read. It was that she's a white person and Athena's clearly a person of color, and when two authors of the same talent bring forth their works, one whom they can make use of, the publisher can make use of in order to show them being big, they'll choose the other person who's kind of a minority and try to push their sales through them. That felt very realistic to me because even if both of them are equally talented, obviously they are not here. Still, even if they are clearly equally talented, it's not like the person who is like a majority is going to have like an edge there. Obviously, if they push this, it's not just the sales will peak; they also kind of get a huger name. They'll look even more inclusive. while they are publishing a certain, how to say, person's book over another. So all those things felt very true to me. I don't know whether all of those things are happening or not, because I saw Cindy's review of the same one, Yellowface, after I read the book, and she gave some stats also based on how June was thinking. And according to the stats, she said that nearly 75% of the books that have been published so far, that is until the time when Yellowface was released, all of them have been by white authors, and the rest 25% have been from people of color. So
Right.
it is right that a person can think like that, but it doesn't make it completely true at the same time, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of like
a good inclusion.
This whole book is having a lot of discussions that book people are having all the time, and a big one is like, you know, it's if you're a minority, then you're like way more likely to get published because publishing is just like begging for it. But I haven't seen Cindy's video yet, but yeah, and then I was thinking that too as we're talking about it here. I'm like, is that really true though? Like, especially in certain genres, like I feel like fantasy and romance are on the right path to be getting more and more diverse authors and stuff. But I don't know, like mystery thrillers, I feel like there's so much non-white off the top of my head.
And I have this, after watching that video and hearing that particular comment from her, I also thought back that all these things are right. People are included. People from different ethnicities and different things are included. But does it happen across genres? Or does it just happen across genres which can be published through the internet like this one? For example, if it's going to be a literary fiction book or a non-fiction book, it's not like people on the internet are going to discuss about that, right? They will discuss, but not to such an extent as fantasy or romance or some contemporary are being discussed. So I think when they try to push their agendas or show their agendas, the publishers, they make sure that they include people from all categories into genres that sell more compared to taking it on a huger scale. It felt like that to me. And getting all these things through June's head was really nice, because everything that she says is true. She's not wrong, but just because she's saying it, we cannot accept it. Because it's not like she's in the right place to say all these things. So that felt like everything that you say is right, but you are not. So I can't take this. It was like that to me the whole time.
It's also, you know, it's R.F. Kuang is an Asian woman, but she's writing from the perspective of a white woman. So
yeah, actually, that was confusing for me in the beginning, you know, because I didn't know that this was an Asian woman against a white writer. How to say? In the beginning chapter, it was clearly shown to us that Athena is Asian, but I did not get the fact that Joan is white at all until we are like 1 or 2 chapters into the book, and that's the small line where she herself says that, "Yeah, I know what you're thinking about me. Just tell me, just call me racist." She says that line, and that's when it struck me. I was a bit confused until then whether. Is she white or is she Asian? And once I got that, and okay, everything makes a bit more sense for me. No, I was like that then.
I don't know. For me, this book proves the point of like kind of what June is saying, in that we shouldn't control who can tell what kind of story. But I think I think a perfect example of an author who is including all kinds of diverse characters in his own books, but because the thing is, like Rick Riordan, the guy who wrote Percy Jackson, you know, he's written all of his books, and his books include like LGBT characters and Mexican characters, like all kinds of stuff. But he has a whole other publishing house where he's specifically helping actual.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
like because it's great to include them in your stories, but what are you doing in the real world to help those actual people? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's he's a great example of what I think the right thing is to do in terms of that. But, and I'm not saying R. Kuang needs to change anything. I just feel like it was a part of the themes of the book, I feel like. And I think it's always on top of my mind, because I'm like, okay, well, I want to make sure I'm not reading like only white authors, because you're only going to get like, you're going to get a very specific perspective, you know, and it's just not, it was so fascinating though, because she's an Asian woman writing a white person's perspective. But and then you're like, okay, well, what does R. Kuang think? But I think she's just to get you to just everybody, like I said, she's coming for everybody's throat. Like she really, because even the Twitter discourse stuff, like I loved this line. There was like a line where she says like, the people were just like waiting. They were on their Twitter. They were just waiting for someone to mess up so they could comfort them. And I'm like, right. Like they're just
That's true.
waiting for
It
some
happens.
author to do something terrible, and then they just want to get on the bandwagon and they want to just gain all these followers. And this is like, it's crazy because I was kind of comparing that to, there's this YouTuber who's got a lot of hate coming at her right now. And I'm just like, people keep making videos about this other YouTuber and just like, she's not a book, but like, I'm like, people are just, they're using this girl's controversy to gain their own clout.
So that they can get some traffic. Yeah.
I don't know what we need to do as a society about it, but it's just like.
Yeah. Actually, that's one of the main reasons why I got out of Twitter. It was like during the peak of pandemic in the summer of 2020 here. And I was there on Twitter then. And out of nowhere, people had more time to be free. And it felt like Twitter was hotter than India then. So I could not take it anymore, and I deleted my Twitter account. And ever since, I've not been on Twitter at all. And while reading all these things, I was like, I'm so glad that I'm not there now. And I just felt so happy for myself that I gave it up. Now let's talk about the publishing chunk of the book, because I think more than anything, this is something that she wanted to write. Because everyone knows that any author must have some kind of guts in order to say all the things that she said, and at the same time get it published out there and make it feel relatable to people. And I felt like she did a really good job of it, and the publisher also must have gambled something a little bit for publishing this book, because it's not like they give away everything about what's going on behind the scenes. At the same time, it's not like they hide our eyes and not show us anything also. I like how when this book was sold, was to be published, they changed her name to June Song, and they also took like an ambiguous photo of her for the book cover, so that it seems like she's Asian when you see her suddenly, but you should dig deeper. You can see what's happening behind it. So that was nice, and it was also good to see that people actually notice all this stuff. It is shown as such in the book to us, when various characters bring these as points and address it to her directly. Why she has changed her name and why is her photo in such a way. And there's even a tweet in which someone says that she's making her eyes little in order to look a certain way so that the book can be pushed. People notice all these things. I'm sure that I do. And when I get on that, seriously, what are you trying to do here? I think that many of us who are readers, especially who are on the internet, we notice all these things and we do question them. And her being aware of it and showing all those things, I think that was a nice move. It's not like she doesn't show us anything. At the same time, she also shows us that I notice what you're noticing. So it's not like we are completely unaware of what the readers might be monitoring.
Yeah, when they first, like, I remember they're talking to her and they're like, okay, so how do we want to position you? And she's like, what do you mean position me? And they're like, well,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She's like, it's like she didn't even think like it mattered. And she's like, they're like, well, you're
actually, after seeing that, it made so much sense for me, because whether we consider it or not, I'm sure that publishers take that as a huge aspect when it comes to pushing their books, because I think that's like a huge driving factor for them to push their books to a certain kind of audience, because it'll attract both people of color who want to see themselves in the stories. At the same time, they'll push it to the white audience who are trying to show themselves as not racist. You know what I mean? It's not like I think that was a clever move, and I have seen so many publishers doing that before. And about books, it's not like they have any idea or any knowledge about the kind of people who are depicted inside the books. But just after reading that, it's like they act like they know everything about it. And I've seen so many people do that on the internet, and I saw it happening in the book, and that it's not like completely the people's fault, but also the publishers trying to make the most money they can by using all these thoughts that we people have, and what kind of stories that people like to read. It's not like the good stories need to go there. What the people want is the thing which we have to push. That was something which was clear that the publishers were doing throughout the book here.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, this wasn't really in the book, but I wonder if, well, she published the last front under Juniper Song, but her other work was under June Hayward, right? And I wonder, I feel like something I've seen lately is like if an author gets big in the last like year or two, they'll go back and they'll like take their previous work and then they'll like redo a new cover and like try to sell that. I wish that had been somewhat of a thing in here, because I wonder if people would have gone back and like, people just didn't care about her other June Hayward, but they just didn't care.
Right.
Anyone had, if there had been a character in the book who was like comparing the writing styles of like June to, I don't know, maybe that could have been an interesting thing. But also, I don't know, the book was so short.
We also saw that people compared the writing of Athena's previous books with this one, but no one cared about June's previous book. And that was not highlighted anywhere, right? It's not like people cared about her before this book came out. And even now, it's not like the people care about her. They care about this book, which is so good. And I think that was one thing which kept on nagging her, that even though she has been doing all the things that Athena has, it's not like she gets any kind of recognition for it. But when she puts her name in her work, it's like all that is coming her way too. So that felt like a nice touch. Because it's not, how to say, people, most readers, when we read a book, it's not like we care that much about the author. We care about what they're trying to say through their books. You may be any person. It doesn't matter. But what you're trying to say, tell us, or what you're trying to bring into your story and put out in the world, that matters more than what kind of person you are, right? Because we have so many authors, I don't want to name them, whose works have been phenomenal before. And when we got to know that they were bad people, it's not like we completely shun their works. We do consider their works, but we don't consider, how to say, them at such a respectable level as we used to before.
Oh, yeah, I can think of...
So I think we can think of multiple.
There's a ton, yeah. There's something in the book about... what was his name? The guy who wrote the Foundation trilogy or something. Isaac, who's no longer alive.
Jackson Bennett. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
And she talks.
I actually highlighted that passage inside the book. She talks about 2 or 3 people, and I was like, okay, after seeing this, I'm not sure whether I want to go back and read their books or not, because I had the Foundation series in my mind back then, and when I saw that line, how am I supposed to even think of reading a work by a person who was like this? Because if I had been ignorant of this, I could have gone there and read it. But knowing what I know right now, I don't think I'll be able to go back and read it with that baggage in me. So that felt how to say, like a thing which needs to happen more often, because it's not like all the classic authors whom we have right now. That is, all the classics that we have right now. Those people were very open-minded. We even see some slurs in some of the classics.
Oh, yeah.
But even with that, people just go forward and read it, because even though that aspect of the book is strong, and there is no reason to do that anymore or anytime before also, it's not that just because of that small reason we can negate the entire thing that surrounds it also.
Once you put out there's a whole conversation to be had about, they call it like, do we care about authorial intent, or should we just take it as like, once the book is out there, the author shouldn't exist anymore, and whatever you take from the book is whatever you take from the book. And I've watched like discussion videos on that whole topic. But that just goes back to like when you're in school and they're trying to tell you like, what did the author mean when they wrote this? And it's like, but does it matter? If I felt they meant this, that's what matters, but
right.
And it's just crazy too, like someone that I watch their YouTube video, she said that she thinks R.F. Kuang is going to go down as one of the best writers of our generation. And I feel like this book and things that become classics, like this is a book about conversations that are happening constantly in our time right now. So like in 50 years or 100 years, like this is going to be like a book that's like, this is what was happening in 2023. Like,
I think people will be able to get back and see like, this is how publishing worked then, and these are the kind of things that people were thinking. It's good that the author's aware about all these stuff, and she thought that she has to address all of them. And in one of her interviews also, I saw that Kuang said that she wrote this during the pandemic, and that's how to say, she was able to bring out all these frustrating things that were happening in the book, because as such in her mind, and she just wanted to get them out. And that's how she, got that feeling that this book delivers to us while we read it. And it was something which I could understand, because while we are doing some kind of work, there are so many complications might be surrounding it, and it's not like we can put them out there and process our feelings about it in a proper way. But a writer like this can do it, and I'm glad that she did it in a way that she didn't make things sound completely wrong. At the same time, she didn't make them feel completely right. She just how to say, put it out there as real as she can, and just read it and think whatever you want to think, because it's not like anyone can decide whether what I'm saying is right or not, because it's completely up to one's own perspective. And how to say, how she lets us deal with it and decide what we want to decide was something which I liked towards the end, because she did not try to prove a point. She didn't say that June was right. She didn't say that Athena was right, and anyone who was coming into the conversation was right or wrong. It's just like all these things are happening. What can we do about it? Or we can't do anything about it. So how can we deal with it? So that was how to say, nice decision that she made, which I liked when I finished reading the book.
There's also a whole conversation. I just was like flipping through it. There's a whole conversation about intellectual property. You know, she really is just like, she's just laying out every single, like everything that happens in publishing. And then
I like the tools, because there are certain instances when I thought like she's talking so much about the internet, and that's not the only thing which publishing depends on. There is so much going on behind. Even though we might not be aware of everything that's going on, it's clear that there are so many factors that come in to make a book and push it out into the world. It's not like anyone who's internet famous gets their book big, right? Because it's not like this book is something that is usually a genre of book that gets big on the internet also, because it is heavily historical and it's heavily filled with facts. And despite that, she makes the book go huge. And in order for that to happen, all these things should happen from the publishing side, because it's not like the readers are going to make it big. The publishers have to do some gimmicks in order to make it reach the right audience, or make it reach the audience who will make it big eternally.
Right. There's like a line where it's like it specifically says, oh, is this how bestsellers work? The publishers just decide what's going to sell. And then once they decide that, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, it's like, oh, well, we see this book, we like this book, we're going to make sure we have this many copies of the book available for sale at this store, this store, this store. And that also goes into like, I just know a few months ago, I remember they were talking about like Barnes and Noble over here in the United States, like just completely changed how they're going to be stocking their stores. And I remember like there was a lot of discourse that people were saying this is directly affecting like people of color, like that are not going to get their works put into the, because like if you're just a person who's reading books and you don't follow the internet stuff and you just go into the bookstore and you don't even pay attention to who the authors are, and now those authors aren't even on the shelves to buy, yikes.
Actually, I think that's the only good part about, how to say, one of the main good parts about the book internet as a whole, because we get to know who writes the story, and we get to know about whom they are trying to, how to say, put a story out there. It's not like everyone has their stories out, and it's not like, how to say, every kind of story is also set using a certain group of people, right? It's not like a huge population might not have gone through something that an entire other side of the world might have gone through. For example, I'll say one thing. I read The Tattooist of Auschwitz this month, in the beginning of this month, and I was like, how could someone, how could people even go through it? Because it is something that is completely happening inside one of the concentration camps. I'll say here in India itself, we are more used to our history with the British, and anything that is outside our history with the British is something which is very foreign to us, because we are not made aware of it in terms of our academia. At the same time, it doesn't feel like that has affected our living in any way. So when I got to see all these horrible stuff that had happened, it's not like bad things have not happened in India. They have, but it made me feel like all these things have happened, but why are they not addressed to people, no matter where they live or what they might have been through? Because it's not like a person who has not gone through this stuff will not make this happen in the future. If we are made aware that all these things have happened and it has affected generations and huge populations together, there's a huge chance that people will not go in that direction, no matter what happens in the future. And I felt like we are not there yet. If we make all these things be seen in the world, because we have all the avenues to do it right now, I think all those things take a lesson great extent, at least in the future. Because what's done is done. We cannot go back and change it. At least from now on, if we know that all these things have happened, we can at least try to prevent them from happening in the future, so that maybe even us will not be affected during that time. So that was something which just affected me so much. And when we pair it with all the things that go on in here, I was like, there's so much that we can do, but I think the publishers want certain things to be out there in the world in order to make money, and we cannot completely blame them also, because it's not like a huge industry also from which they can make money, because reading itself is a very niche thing. It's not like the mass media where people can just flaunt their money and throw it off and just go and watch a movie or a TV show or buy some subscription. Even if we readers buy a lot of books, it's not like the authors or the publishers are going to get that much out of it if it's not going to go so huge. That too for a very long time. If it is huge for just like a couple of years, and then if it dwindles down, I don't think it'll be that much profitable for the publishers as well as the author. So I think some strategies that they work out in order to push things that they think will sell big cannot be used as something that we can place a blame on them completely for, because that's their job. So we can't tell them how to do their job. We can just give our suggestions that if this happens, it'll make the lives of some people a bit better and easier also. So that was something which, how to say, we can't do anything from our side, but all we can do is we can give a voice that when someone is trying to bring this out into the world, we can at least make sure that we also have the same opinion.
I can only imagine like what her, like, it's crazy to think about like the actual people that edited this specific book and the publishing of like this book, and they're like imagine you're like, I don't know, anyone involved in that process, and you read this and you're like, it's like that
they're talking about us. They're talking about us, and it's not like they're lying, but how am I supposed to do this? And how am I supposed to keep on doing this after seeing what else going on?
Miss Kuang she's a tough bitch.
Yeah.
I love her.
I'm sure that I'm definitely going to read her other works, because if I'm not wrong, this is the shortest book that she has written. And if this has this much for me to think through, I'm sure Babylus plus the popularity are going to have so much more for me. Okay, now we'll talk about our final thoughts about the book, because I don't think after reading this book anyone can just and about it. It has so much stuff going on, and I wanted to do I've not done this kind of a discussion before on my channel, and I wanted to do it with this book. After reading it, I was sure that many people will have the same kind of feelings that we have. And before reading the book, I did not think that such a short book that is just over 300 pages long would make me feel so many things and want to discuss it to such a great extent. And there are two things which made that happen. The first one is her writing. It is very digestible. I thought that since she's an author who's well known for her fantasy, that would be the thing and the progression of this book, because fantasy authors have this tendency, right? They want to build the world, they want to show what's happening, and because of that, they tend to meander from what actually in the story. I thought that would happen here, and I was like, this book, she doesn't say anything that she that is not necessary to the story. At the same time, she does not say anything with a lower so that it needs to be sugar. It's just out there and bitter. We just have to take it as such so that we can see what's happening. And also her writing, it was phenomenal. Okay, I was not able to put it down at all. It felt like if she has written this book, it should have gone through at least like 10 or 15 drafts in order to sound this beautiful. And the word choices that she makes, and they just made me feel the thing exactly in the proper way. I don't think many authors have that to use the exact words in order to just convey what they want to convey. And it's not like it's very difficult also, because sometimes what happens is, just in order to make certain characters sound intellectual and not to show that they are quite sharp, authors use a lot of difficult words, and we have to go back and see what it means, because even if we try to understand it with the I like that very much, because try to make her writing beautiful by introducing many complex elements. She kept it as much digestible and easy as she can. At the same time, she maintained her style from the starting to the end, and it didn't feel like there was any bump in her writing at all. It was so smooth from the start to the end. I just didn't want to stop reading it. I just wanted it to go on. So that is something which I have not experienced in quite a while, and it just makes me want to read more of her books.
I completely agree.
What do you think?
Our Kuang is one of the few authors that I feel like just makes me feel so many things. And I mean, if you read the Popular Trilogy, you're gonna meet a lot of characters, and they're gonna make you feel, oh man, she just really, her writing is so good, the plots are good, and it's like she's in this perfect balance of like being, her books are deep, but they're not like meandering and like unnecessary. Like there's nothing on, everything is like, she's trimmed all the fat in all her books. I feel like every single sentence in her books has a purpose. Yeah, I can't wait to read everything she writes from now until forever, but this book was, it was such a good, I mean, obviously we discussed the whole thing for like an hour. It's just so, it's a lot to unpack, I feel like, and that's how all her books are.
Yeah, sometimes she's giving me so much that my brain cannot process all of it at a time. There were certain chapters where I feel like it is so good and I just need to take a breather in order to organize thoughts, what's happened. And it's not like she says everything with this story. She takes certain, small monologues in which she addresses her own knowledge about publishing and her own knowledge about writing, and she puts them into June's thoughts. And she makes sure that they're clearly visible out of the story so that it doesn't get hidden or lost while we read the story as a whole. And there were instances when I felt like is this author so smart for me to read, because there were instances in which I felt, what is she saying and how is she able to write this beautifully while making me in time not boring me, such that it feels like I'm not smart enough to read this. It was very fascinating for me as a whole experience. I did not feel like I was smart enough. At the same time, I did not feel like this book was my favorite under thing. Just as I kept on, simultaneously as I kept on reading it, I had to take micro breaks in order to just okay, she has said something. It needs to sit in my mind. And once it sits, and once I get a proper understanding like that for me. And there are also some really beautiful lines that I did annotate, and I do have them in the book. I have not put in the tabs, but I have highlighted them. And if for a thriller / contemporary / literary fiction, for writing is this beautiful, I just can't imagine how much beautiful it's going to be in the popular, and especially in Babel, because that's a book about translating, right? So I think it would have gone like full on mode when it comes to writing. So I just need to read all 4 of them as soon as I can.
Agreed.
I felt like the pacing was also really consistently maintained. It was not like these things are snowballing. It's not during that chunk alone, and after that it gets slow. It remained consistent from the start to the end, and I think that is something which is not that easy to maintain from the start to the finish with a story like this, because it's not like we talk about different things. There is only one thing which we focus on. And surrounding that wrong deed, all these conversations get started. And
right. She's like, I don't know there's any other author that could have written this book right now, which is,
yeah.
It just shows like how talented she is and how important she is for like our time.
And I also thought that she reminded me a bit of Dugo, because usually what happens for me is when I read any author's book, I love the characters, or I love the world, I love the plot, something like that happens. Even when it comes to Cassie Clare's books, I love her characters, but I don't care for the plot at all. You just give me these characters talking to each other. That's enough for me, because that's what I go for her books. It's the same for most of the authors that I go to also. But the special thing for me about Leigh Bardugo is that she does her characters well. At the same time, she does not compromise with the plot. Her writing is beautiful. At the same time, she makes me see the story rather than just read it or listen to it. And I think Kuang did the same thing for me. It was not like anything lacked.
Right.
She didn't make one of the elements of the book stand out compared to the other. She just kept everything at an equal plane, and so I get a story which has everything in the proper aspect without elevating something, and because of that elevation, something else seeming low. Sometimes what happens is the author is so talented and smart, but they cannot bring themselves down so that they can make the readers understand what they are trying to convey. It was clear here that she's much more intellectual and smarter compared to how she's trying to sound here, but she makes sure she sounds like that so that anyone who reads the book can understand what she's trying to say without going back and doing some research. So that was something which I've not seen many authors do. And
master's in Chinese studies from Oxford, and now she's getting a PhD in East Asian languages at Yale. So like she is, that's what's so great about her, is that she's taking all of these, she's making things accessible, like you said. That's what's so great about. And then I know at the end of the Poppy War, I think it was in the first book, she has like a list of all these resources, and even like the books that she talks about like what's good for someone who's just reading about it for the first time. and she like splits them up into categories of like which ones are going to be more difficult to read and easy to read and all that. And she's just got like this, she's taking things that are obviously important for people to know and making them accessible. And I just think that's something to be applauded, I feel like.
So I'm definitely going to go forward and get other books, and I need to read them. It's not like, how to say, after reading certain books, you get this rush, right, that you want to read more by the person who has written this. It's been a while since I felt something like that for an author, and obviously this was super hyped by the internet even before I bought it. But after reading it, I was able to understand, okay, it's not like she's popular just because people are talking about her books. It's not like people outright hate her books, but the conversations that they bring up, that's something which I think is very necessary, because many authors become popular because their books are entertaining and relatable. But it's not like all of them bring up conversations which are necessary for us to have. And personally, I think that reading is a very solitary activity, right? We all do it alone, and it's good in one way. And if you see on another side, it makes us get into a cave of ourselves and not explore different things. And it is books like this one, which just make us want to talk about certain stuff, because we can't have conversations inside our head about this one without getting frustrated. But if we bring it out to someone like this, we can also, how to say, get what they think about it, because it's not like, even though the book is written from one person's point of view, it's not the only way we can see the story. She clearly makes us understand that this is just her point of view, and you can see if something this huge can be said from the point of view of a person who's not right. Just imagine how bad things can get in the world, and just in order to avoid that and how to say, be precautious that they don't happen, all of us need to speak out. So I think that was something which I felt after having this whole discussion and also reading the book. I didn't rate it 5 stars though. Still, it made me think of it more than anything.
Would you change anything about the book?
I'd also changed the ending. I felt like the build-up was great for how it ended, but it felt like the things that happened towards the ending, where Candace and June talk to each other, it ended so quick. And it also felt like, how to say, June obviously knows that Candace was the person who called the ambulance for her. She called 911 for her, and only because of her, she did not die. But she doesn't bring that up, because even though all these things are bad, and even though Candace is the one who put out the proof, the confession of June in the world, it is funny that people don't question how she got the confession, and don't relate the time of the confession and the time during which June has this accident together, and that does not build up to anything. It's just shown like June is the only person who's aware of it, and the rest of the world, didn't even notice. So I think she had shown like some Twitter conversations or something, which do talk, even if they are actual. I think it could have made a bit more sense, because everything else did make sense. So if something bad happens to a person like this, I think they will talk about that too. At least for bashing her, I think the people might have talked about it, and it felt like it was totally left out towards the end, just because we reached the end of the story.
I agree.
I did not think that I would have this much to talk about a book, especially the first book of an author that I've read, and it was like a completely different experience than what I thought. And what in the beginning was that after hearing of this book for the first time, I thought that it was a literary fiction. The basic blurb of the book also made it feel like a literary. And I saw one of our Indian booktubers here reading this book in a vlog in which she read only thriller books back to back, and I was like, Yellowface is a thriller. I didn't know that. And when I started reading the book, this doesn't sound like a thriller, because the first few chapters, they don't feel like a thriller to us, right? Only when the ball starts rolling, we get to know that, okay, there are going to be so many repercussions, and from where they are going to come and who's going to bring them into the story. That's when I felt the thriller aspect. Until then, it just felt like a literary fiction for me. But it's not also a book which can be boxed into a certain genre. We can put it into different genres, and people who enjoy different stuff can come together and read this book.
I'm glad you liked it. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the Poppy War.
Yeah, I'll definitely read it. Okay, I'll try to read it as soon as I can. And from my experience with reading this one, I'm sure that if I'm going to read Poppy War, I need to have all the 3 books with me, because I can't stop at a cliffhanger and suffer. So I'll probably binge the series when I start reading it. So yeah, I will read it for sure, and I hope that I start it soon. I think I'll be reading it during the winter here, so that it'll be much more nice for me to read as a whole experience, since it's fantasy. So let's just wait and see. I already have a few series that I have on my TBR that I read during the winter. Okay, how do you feel about this discussion? It feels like I have talked a lot more than you about the recording.
I talked like more in the beginning. I feel like I just at the end. I feel like I got all my thoughts out. So I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad I liked it. I'm happy.
We should probably try doing this for else like fantasy, something like a high fantasy book, so that we can see whether we have as many thoughts on other genres like this one, because this is something which is a book that is written to start a conversation. It is clearly evident after reading it. I want to just we used to have our book club chats back then, right? It's not like all those books had anything to do with the society or anything. They were just fun fantasy books for most of the time. I want to read something like that and do something like this again, so that I think more people will be interested in it, because I also have people in my audience who like fantasy more than other genres, and I know that your audience is also like that. So we must wait and see. And I also watched your popular review this morning. It was nice, and I want to read it. I definitely want to read it.
Yeah, I wasn't super coherent in that review. I was just like, it's great.
I saw that because it's been a while, right? Because if you were able to speak it talk about it last year itself, it could have been a bit more easier for you, because it would have been fresh in your mind. But now you'll just have those fond memories, and I've read that so many times. I read this book back then. I don't remember much about it, but you need to read it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for joining the conversation, Andrew, and I hope that we can do this for some other book in the future, preferably soon. Let's wait and see. A book like this needs to happen sometime soon, so that we can talk a lot more.
Maybe we can do Babel.
Yeah, we can try doing that, because it's also a huge book, and I think we can get a lot more meat out of it. I'm just so glad that I did it, and I want to read all of our other books. I said multiple times before. So yeah, this has been one book which I could not stop thinking about for at least like 2 or 3 days after I finished reading it, and I want more of more books which feel like that. Okay, then we'll meet for the next recording with Babel, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye.
So yes, guys, that was my conversation with Andrew from Andrew Annotates on YouTube and Instagram. I have linked both of his Instagram handle as well as YouTube handle down in the description. Do go forward and check his channel as well as Instagram, because he has really fun content out there, especially if you're a fan of the Shadowhunter Chronicles. And if you did enjoy watching it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. And if you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.